Yes, I'm just literally planning out the session I'm going to do here, trying to think of exercises to choose based off how I'm feeling right now. So I have a general idea of what I usually do when I come into a gym. When I'm stiff, sore, and I want to just get some movement in, but also target the right areas. So for me at the minute, proximal hamstrings are a focus, calves are a focus, groins are always a focus since having the groin injury last year, to keep on top of that. And then obviously lower abdominals and all as well is key. So trying to like pick exercises that are going to target that I've been consistently doing over the last couple of months, so I can continue to progress them. Yeah, if we start with a bit of movement in the bike, we'll go into some direct pelvis work, pelvic tilts, pelvic shifts, some work in the lateral glutes, some work in the groins, some work in the lower core as mentioned, on the GHD, some hamstring iso holds for the proximal hamstring. We'll go with yielding work to build some capacity today. I did overcoming isos last night before training, and we'll do a bit of uppers blended in there as well, a bit of bench, bit of chins, shoulders and arms, and that should be us good to go. And I'll talk you through the way and I suppose the technique and execution of some of the exercises as well, because I know some of them are unfamiliar for a lot of athletes, and the execution side of things is absolutely key to ensure you're actually getting the most from it. So just jumping onto the bike for the first 5-10 minutes of the session, literally just get some blood flowing, get warmed up, because again we trained last night and I feel a wee bit stiff and a wee bit sore, so just helps to get things moving before we get into the session. In the off season I had been doing a good bit of zone 2 work on the bike, just to build that aerobic engine, but now that I'm in season there isn't much of an opportunity for it. I like to prioritise other things in terms of my robustness work in the gym over the off feed. I feel like a lot of that work was banked in the off season, like I got a good bit of work in, so that has stood to me like throughout the season, and I don't really need to be including that much of it. I will still get the odd session in on a recovery day if I feel like doing it, but it's not a massive priority at this stage. Again, so it's 5 minutes bike, 5 minutes just moving about, general unstructured movement, loosen up the body again. Ooh, that's when you know you're stiff, how when you do this one and you feel like your lower back's about to snap. So the key thing after like a tough session or a tough game or anything is literally just getting movement in, like low level movement. Get blood flowing and kind of stimulate that recovery process as much as possible. It doesn't have to be that specific either. This is one of my favorite exercises for the hips and just freeing up the pelvis a wee bit. I would do this most days. So you get foam rotor between your legs and you're literally just trying to shift your pelvis from side to side. Get some nice movement in there. Again, typically after a session, this will feel stiffer than usual. So it's key to just try and get that movement going and loosen things up a wee bit. Okay, trying to keep the back on the floor. And just shift one knee up as the other knee comes down while keeping the back on the floor and the pelvis tilted. Feet flat on the wall, pulling down and up as you shift up and down. If you want the butteriest hips in the world, do this every day. You can also do it sideline if that's a struggle. So you put the roller between the legs or like a bottle or something, Again, key that your feet are flat on the wall, and you're just trying to shift that top knee again, back and forth. As you come back, you're pressing this top knee down into the roller. And avoid over arching the back. Keep it nice and still. You're literally just trying to isolate the hip in this movement. So as you come back, as you bring the top knee forward, you bring the bottom knee back, and as you bring the top knee back, you bring the bottom knee forward, and you squeeze this top knee down. You feel the groin lighten up. There. So now I'm going into some lateral glute work. Again, a key thing for me when I've had hamstring issues and groin issues is trying to keep that lateral glute as strong as possible. So this banded variation has been working really well. Again, it's really important when you're doing these kind of movements that you know what the cues are and you're able to actually isolate that part of the hip effectively. So typically when athletes do this, they'll just put the band on, they'll absolutely wing it. They'll just start baiting the band out, as fast as they can, and you're not actually isolating anything in your hip. So you need to understand movement and understand where your pelvis needs to be, what your foot needs to be doing, what your upper body needs to be doing, so that you can actually isolate the hip and get that strong, those small muscles in the lateral hip that have such a huge impact on how you move. So for this, we're going for a slight tilt of the pelvis, getting the glute slightly engaged. Foot must stay flat on the floor, and we're trying to bring this knee out and forward as we come, and the key thing is just continue to press through the big toe. So again, up nice and tall, ribs down, pelvis slightly tilted, foot flat on the floor, big toe presses into the floor, and we're just pushing out in that direction diagonally. Trying to get the breath involved, so inhale as you come in, exhale as you come out. You can use the hand for support so that you're really isolating that glute. You can do 8 to 10 reps, or you could just bring it out to the end range and hold it there for 30 seconds. Just getting a nice burn in the lateral hip. A lot of athletes would be very good at offloading these kind of muscles. If you're just squatting or you're deadlifting, you're going to be using the big muscles, your quads, your glutes. Those kind of smaller stabilizer muscles can often be neglected and will end up becoming weak and can have an impact. It's not a problem until it's a problem, as they say. So it's actually my right hip that has been the issue. So I have had proximal hamstring tendon pain that kind of arose last year during the county season. So I had come back from the groin injury, was feeling good, load went through the roof, and I had probably opened up a lot of space at the hips, and so I was probably utilising tissues and parts of my body that hadn't been loaded properly before, and so it was like a spike to them, and then they became overloaded, and then the tendinopathy arose. So yeah, that literally, the thing with the tendinopathy is it can just happen over time, and then once the pain arises is when it's probably too late. The tendon has degraded enough so that there's a major, probably like hole within your tendon that can show up as like a hole as in like a donut, and you mightn't have realised that was happening until the actual pain arose, and then it's too late to like fix it within a week. It's going to take 3 months, 6 months to actually fix the issue. So I spent probably a month of that county season getting that right, targeting in the gym, and it did take the guts of a month to start feeling anyway pain-free, and just kept working on it throughout the club season. Felt better, was back playing, and that's when I kind of probably started neglecting it a wee bit. And then I came back there in the January time again when the load went through the roof with Fermanagh and we were getting pre-season done. So I still got pre-season done and got a lot of load in the legs, but this is kind of kicked back up, and it means that a bit of work needs to be done to regenerate the tendon again, which again takes time. So if you are an athlete who has tendon issues, you have to be patient and you have to put in the graft for long periods of time to actually improve the strength and structure of that tendon, because rest doesn't do it. It's not enough. Feeling crampy. Went off on a bit of a tangent there, I think. what I was going to say is the proximal tendon been giving pain, and then the actual lateral glute tendon, which is why I'm targeting quite a lot here, started to give me bother. And again, it's just like when you get one area right and strong and you start neglecting other areas and then they start kicking up. So that's the importance of not just solely focusing on one area when you're in the gym, trying to put a focus on everything. I was doing overcoming hamstring exercises in the gym, and had planned to come back in after training to finish it out, and I just didn't. And no one was going to help me out and unload the bar anyway. I'm happy enough though. I'd like see loading this fucking thing up every time you come into the gym before you do go out onto the pitch is a pain in the whole leg. So I think we should just leave that there forever. I've actually been getting very strong in this too. So again, I suppose I'll give you a rundown or show you what I actually do here. So for the tendon issues, it's key that you're doing kind of a blend of yielding work and overcoming work. So the yielding work is more like long duration, 45 seconds, 60 seconds, 4 to 5 sets, lighter weight, but you're trying to like hold an isometric contraction so that you're building capacity of the tendon. And that's obviously key, but you also want to build the force producing capability of the tendon, which is going to come from your overcoming work, which is like short bursts, really heavy weight, driving into an object that isn't moving. So like a blend of those two is key. And it's trying to ensure that you're actually targeting the right tissue. So if I'm doing something like this and I've been doing it for 2 or 3 weeks and I'm getting no joy, like nothing's changed, then it's time to change it up. It's time to target a different tissue to see maybe I've been just targeting the wrong area for that whole period, and that's why you need to change things quickly when it comes to tendons if something's not working within a few weeks. So what I've been doing is loading the bar up. So I actually started this at like 130 kilos and I could barely move the bar. Now this is 160 and I can just about get it off the floor, like if I go hard. And it is quite sore to do it on my tendon, but I find it eases the pain before sessions, and it also it's been easing the pain gradually as the weeks have went on, as the tendon's been getting stronger. It's been adapting and it's obviously been getting stronger and growing, so I'm continuing to stick with it. So whether I do this here or not is another question. I'll break this fucking... So for me, I was going long lever out here, but it's very hard to push from there, so I'm going to get a wee bit more bend in the knee. And then from here, it's literally just about trying to get this bar off the floor. Shouldn't really be able to move it too much because it's an overcoming isometric. You want to be pushing without, like, you don't want it to move. So that's why I've just had to continue upping the weight as I went. So literally from here, I'm just going to go for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's fucking grim as well, I must add. But yeah, so I'm going for like 3 reps on each side for that. And I usually try and get like 3 to 5 sets in, depending on how much I could actually be arsed doing it. Left side. Left side stronger. The right side still has a wee bit of catching up to do, but I'll get there. The other key thing to note here, so we talked a wee bit about targeting the right tissues. So I had been doing this for a couple of weeks and I wasn't finding any real joy. Like the tendon wasn't feeling any better. It was nearly getting worse when I was doing it, and it was really sore to do it. So I had been doing that with my foot in a neutral position. So instead I started changing up the position of my foot to target maybe a bit more lateral within the hip or the hamstring, or maybe a bit more medial in terms of the hamstring. So I've been doing reps with the foot turned in for like 4 or 5 second pushes, and then some reps with the foot turned out, and that's just targeting different parts of the hamstring, which I've been finding joy from. So once I started to do that, that's when my pain started to ease up a wee bit. So that goes for any tendon issue really, like, but it's a lot trickier with the hamstring because there's different muscles within the hamstring that are attaching on to different parts of the tendon. So when it comes to like Achilles, it's maybe a wee bit more straightforward in terms of like, really you're probably just trying to target different foot positions or heights of your heel, whereas this you're trying to fucking target short muscle length, long muscle lengths, internally rotated foot, externally rotated foot. But yeah, I've been starting to get a wee bit more joy since I've been doing that. So yeah, just a small tip for you is to explore and try out different positions, different tempos, different intensities, and see which one works and which one's giving you joy. But the key thing is that you're actually loading it. I see so much with athletes with tendon issues, and it just keeps coming back. Like, they've had it maybe 2 years ago and then they got rid of it because they took like 3 months off and the inflammation went down, but they didn't actually heal the problem. They didn't actually fix the issue that was there with the tendon. So with a tendon issue, there's actual degeneration of the tendon. So that will not heal unless you load it. So if you just rest, yes, the inflammation will die and the inflammation will go down and you'll probably not feel much, but you actually haven't healed the problem. Like, you need to be stimulating collagen synthesis through progressive loading in the gym to actually form new structures over the top of that, to strengthen the area so that when you return to play and the high intensity stuff in the pitch again, that it's not going to flare up again. So that's why typically you'll see athletes who have the issue 1 year, it goes away every 6 months, it comes back, and this goes on and on and on. You haven't actually done the necessary strength work through isometrics, yield and overcoming. Eccentric work as well is another key part of this. Once you've nearly tapped out the isometric work, the eccentric work is also important. It's just trickier to do that in season. But that's the only way that you are going to regenerate collagen within your tendon and actually have a healthy structure there that you can go back and play in pain-free for long periods of time with. So again, it's an ongoing process. For me, one thing I've learned is with tendons is you have to commit to it for even a year. Like, for me, it's like, I'm going to just commit to this for a year, loading it every single week, like with the Achilles, with the hamstring, with the patellar, whatever it is, and have that patience and have that long-term approach to it, and combine that with your nutrition, with getting collagen in daily. For me, I take 20 grams every day, make sure I'm getting vitamin C with that. I time it 45 to 60 minutes before my session, go in, target the tissue, and even if that's adding 5% to the healing process, then it's worth it. So again, I stay consistent with that. I stay consistent with nutrition, trying to have a good whole foods diet. So again, reducing overall inflammation in the diet, ensuring I'm getting enough protein in and macros so that I'm not in a calorie deficit, which will also compromise healing. And then you're just trying to keep on top of sleep and lifestyle factors as well as much as you can. So there's a lot to juggle and a lot to think about, but to get yourself back fully pain-free, that kind of stuff is necessary. So yeah, a lot going on there. I'll have to up this to 100, 170 the next day. A recent study found that tea bags release approximately 11.6 billion microplastics in a single cup of tea. That has to be bollocks. What are we going to do, like?
Is that for real?
That's what it says, like. 3.1 nanoplastic single cup. The shite I be looking at on social media, like, it's just hilarious.
You're going to be just stopping drinking tea?
No. I don't care, mate. That's a hand note. If using tea bags, opt for organic, plastic-free options. Do you reckon plastic's actually like a big issue?
Yeah.
A major issue?
Oh, yeah.
This is a very, very close-up video. I feel uncomfortable as fuck. But again, working the deep hip rotators here. Again, like, a lot of this stuff, like, my hamstring tendon's a wee bit sore from training last night, so a lot of the focus is like trying to offload that, as well as target with the isos. I want to target the groins, the hip flexors, the quads, calves, and just offload that area as much as I can, which I find really does help to reduce the pain, while also getting the other areas around it strong, which naturally will offload it when you're back in the pitch. This one's difficult, so I'm going 30-second iso hold. Forgot to fucking time it, mind you. Yeah, so if you're like in pain in one area, try and desensitize the area by focusing on the muscles around it, and it should help with pain, which means you don't have to fucking start baiting paracetamol and ibuprofen into you for no reason. So the focus here is I'm trying to get 90 degree angles, so 90 degree angle with the shin to the thigh muscle. Fuck, that's difficult. Would you say I've got my angles right here?
Bit more, right, bring that heel back.
Here? This way?
Yeah.
Ooh. You should be a coach.
I'm qualified to be fair.
That's true. In deep hip rotator muscles. And their function. Oh.
Not good for much else.
Hey?
Not good for much else.
Fuck, that's something in my eye there.
Wait,
The joys of wearing contact lenses and being blind as fuck. If I could change one thing about me, it'd be my eyesight. 20/20 vision.
Not yet tendinopathies.
No, they're fixable. Well, I suppose I can get laser eye surgery, but I don't even know if I'm eligible. I've got a stigmatism in one eye, which if anyone doesn't know is like a fucking rugby ball shaped eye. And it basically just means you're blind as fuck. I actually played Gaelic up until I was 20, like my first year in the county even. No contacts or nothing. Like I was just playing half blind and my eyesight's pretty bad. Like if anyone knows numbers, I'm like a +5.5 in one eye and a +4.5 in the other eye. Or like a 5 and a 6 maybe, which is incredibly blind. So I honestly don't even know how I did that for so long. But someday I want to get laser eye surgery and just be able to see, because not being able to see is a pain in the hole. So next up we're doing long yield and isometrics for the proximal hamstring. So this is one I've only really started doing over the last week and I've been finding decent joy from. I was probably too sore to do it before. But we're going 90-90 position, one leg on the bench. We're just coming slightly up into a bridge. And the key thing here is that I'm pulling my heel back and down into the bench as hard as I can. And again, this is where I've been mixing up the foot position. So if you just look at my foot here, like so between outside positions, loading here, and I'll hold that for 30 seconds. And then I'll tilt the foot back in and target the inside edge of the heel, which will target more medial hamstring. And I'll hold that for 30 seconds as well. So it's just targeting different tissues and different muscles, different parts of the tendon, and seeing what responds well. And yeah, that's been giving me joy over the last while. So again, I'll come up, this is a low level one. It's, again, there's no real, I'm not adding like excess load. It's really just coming from the amount of force that I'm putting into the bench with my heel drag. So I can hold this for long periods. So I'm trying to aim for 60 seconds. Again, with isos and long yield and isos, if you're really, in a lot of pain, then there's not that much loading that you can do. Like you can't really load it up that much. So really you're just trying to build capacity and hold it for long periods of time and try and reduce the pain. Once you've got the pain down a bit, then we can start to load up again. Maybe do long lever isometrics, which is what I've been doing, like between two benches, in the long position, putting like weight on top of your hip, and holding that in an iso for 45 to 60 seconds and then trying to increase the load over time. So the key is you're always trying to increase something. So whether it's time, whether it's the weight that you're adding on, you're just trying to build that capacity up and up and up. Whereas a key mistake athletes make is they'll just do their isos for pain relief, but they're not getting stronger at anything. So if it's a hamstring bridge, you need to add load. If it's a leg extension, you need to add load over time, get the thing stronger. If it's calf raises or long yielding, calf holds on the Smith machine, can you add load to the bar and continually get that area stronger, even if you're in season? So that is absolutely key. So we're going up, holding this for 60 seconds between the different foot positions. Time it on the watch. And again, this should be challenging. So I shouldn't get off here at the end and be like, fuck, I could have done another couple of minutes there. It should be a case of like nearly trembling come the end, fairly difficult, probably 7 out of 10. And again, a minimum of 3 sets is key for this, so I try and aim for 4 at least, between 4 and 5, between 45 to 60 seconds. So this kind of work can feel nasty in the first set. If I've been sore for a couple of days, or sore for training session last night, it'll be sore for the first set, but after come the 4th and 5th set, the pain will have eased a good bit. Switch to the right side, which has been the problematic one. Again, heel drag, go inside edge of the heel for the first 30 seconds. So again, I can just feel a nice pull here when I'm dragging the heel back and down. I've got a nice tilt of the pelvis. And this is working the muscle in a shortened position. And then it's also key to work in short and long positions. So this is shortened, I'll go long lever where my
shoulders and back are in the far bench, and between the two benches, slight bend in the knee, and that's working at long muscle lengths. So again, it's just about exploring different movement positions. The problem with these and like rehab and tendon issues is it is grim. Like, it's long fucking holds. It's not nice. Like, it's nasty at times, and that's the price you pay for not managing your load effectively. And that's why I hammer on so much about load management. Is like, nothing's a problem until it is. So like, if you can manage your load effectively when you don't have any injuries and you've no niggles or pains, then you reduce the risk of you picking those up later down the line. But if you ignore load management until you've actually got an injury, then it's too late. You know, there's no point fucking managing your load when you've got the tendinopathy. Like, you're gonna have to do it anyway. You know, the time to do it was a month ago, 2 months ago. And it is tricky at this time of the season, like, because you don't really have a massive amount of control over what you're doing on the pitch. And I've been hearing stories about what teams have been doing at the pitch at this stage of the year, and it's fucking crazy. Like, and it's just asking for injuries. So a lot of the time you nearly need to just stand up for yourself and, you know, say that you're standing out of a session, or you're managing your load effectively outside of that and recovering as best you can and getting into the gym and doing your movement. Focusing on your nutrition as well is key, so that you're limiting that chance of actually picking up those injuries. But yeah, the process once you have a tendinopathy is grim, so you don't want to, you know, develop that. And as I mentioned at the start, like, it is once you have the tendinopathy, it could be a 3 month, 6 month process before the fibers within that tendon have regenerated and are built back and are strong enough for you to be able to go through previous loads and intensities again without pain. Yeah, and I have been doing these probably now for like 6 months to a year, and it's grim having to do like 4 sets of 60-second holds with 20-30 kilos on your hip. Like, it's something that I don't want to have to be doing for too much longer.